I would now like to introduce today's presenters. David Ricard, partner, leads Everest Group's global customer experience management services and sourcing and vendor management for clients globally. Chendak Biswas is a practice director on the business process services team. He assists clients on topics related to customer experience management, including customer experience strategy, service delivery models, market opportunities, and more. And with that, I would like to turn things over to David.
Thank you, Raphael, and welcome everybody for joining us on this webinar today. We all know this is obviously a very hotly anticipated topic when we talk about generative AI, and obviously customer experience management, or CXM as we call it, is obviously a very important topic as well. We know that businesses that focus on CXM really do benefit from a business perspective. So what we wanted to cover today is we're going to look at the potential for Gen AI solutions in CXM and start to think about the enterprise expectations and priorities when it comes to generative AI, the influence of generative AI, and how the implementation of Gen AI is going to be playing out in the CXM ecosystem. We're then going to look at how ready enterprises are to adopt generative AI, and then also think about consumers, because there is no point investing heavily in generative AI solutions as an enterprise if your end consumers aren't ready or willing to adopt it. And what you'll see today is we're given a snapshot of a lot of the research that we've done. We have, as you would expect as a research firm, a lot more detailed information behind this, and we're always very happy to have follow-on conversations about any of the topics that we cover. But we're just trying to give a snapshot of what we're seeing in the market to help you make intelligent decisions as you're thinking about your strategy. But as I said, it's a high-level snapshot. We've got a lot more information, always happy to go into more detail with people. But when we've done recently some studies where we actually asked a number of our customers and across the service providers and enterprises in terms of what are some of the external factors that you think will influence your business in 2024. What you can see from this chart is actually, so global macroeconomic conditions is definitely seen as having a negative influence on people's business, as is the geopolitical environment. When you start thinking about some of the areas that are actually going to have a positive influence, then we start getting into the evolution and adoption of new technology and also changing customer interest and purchasing behavior. So what this really tells us is when we talk to a lot of enterprises about their focus areas and their main concerns, we start getting into the focus on, we are going to have to focus on our costs, but we're also going to need to do more with less. And that is really driving the focus on technology as well to drive some of that behavior. Because when we've asked them, we do a key issue study at the end of every year, thinking and asking businesses what are some of their key priorities going into 2024. And what you can see is, as I was saying, that cost optimization is the #1 business priority from the clients that we spoke to. Revenue growth is #2, and then customer experience improvement, as someone who's been in the customer experience world for a long time now, is pleasing to see that. Customer experience improvement is #3. So we know that actually what organizations are looking for is to say, how do we optimize our cost, but also how do we add more value to our clients and how do we grow our revenue, whilst also improving that customer experience? Because we know that if you go back to the old way of thinking about outsourcing, it was always cost, quality, risk, but that's still really relevant today. You really want to be able to control your cost. You want to improve the quality of service whilst also managing your risk. And that's why, as we talk a lot about right now, actually, as you start thinking about generative AI, you have to factor those three things as well to start thinking about how is this going to impact your business and how you're going to take advantage of the opportunities it can present without putting your business under undue risk or undue cost. Well, so when we think about the focus from a technology perspective, again, we asked clients in terms of what are going to be some of your priorities in the next 6 to 12 months. It was probably no surprise that advanced automation, including Gen AI, was the #1 focus area, because there is so much talk about it. It is almost one of those things that you have to be seen to be doing it, or you have to be seen to be talking about it. but it does also present a lot of opportunities to businesses. Second was around UX and CX design, which again is because we're thinking about how do you really improve that customer experience, but leveraging the technology. I think that some of the reasons why some of our chatbot solutions that haven't been as effective as they could be in the past is that they're actually good solutions, but they've been put in the wrong place within the customer journey. So thinking about the UX and the CX and the customer journey more broadly is actually an important part of thinking about the strategy. And then you've got cloud solutions. We've also got a number 4, cybersecurity. We know that security is a massive issue and concern when we start thinking about leveraging generative AI, and also securing their platforms is vital. And then number 5 is around advanced analytic solutions. So really thinking about how do we gain insight into the business? How do we understand why customers are contacting us? How do we really understand what's happening in our business to be able to identify and target those improvements in the right place? So having an advanced analytic solutions, even starting to think about customer journey analytics, prescriptive, predictive analytics, all the areas that we would cover within analytics is going to be fundamental to start building this all-round solution that can drive down your costs but improve the customer experience whilst also managing your risk. So that's some of the focus areas that we're seeing. Some areas that are less focused on things like extended reality and metaverse. They're still going to be relevant for certain lines of business, but the 5 that we've just talked about in the blue on that slide, they're the ones that we're seeing the most interest in people pursuing right now. And then if we think about, we talk within Everest Group about digital CXM, and we talk about this as being a massive growth area. And when we talk about digital CXM solutions, that's what we mean. We're talking about analytics. We're talking about automation. So whether that's agent assistance, whether it's self-serve, social media monitoring, skills-based routing, all the forms of automation that you have out there. You have conversational AI, you have CCaaS solutions and cloud-based contact centers, you have CX consulting and advisory, and then you have what we would call others, so things like translation solutions, talent management. When we're looking at where we expect the biggest growth to be, then again, maybe no surprise, but we definitely expect the growth to be in automation solutions. So really driving that agent assist, and we'll get into more details of some of the use cases in a moment, but using it in terms of self-serve, and then really leveraging the capabilities that are there with conversational AI, augmented and improved through generative AI, and then analytics and contact center, cloud-based contact centers and consulting following behind. But really interesting time in the CX tech space, as we're really seeing people are looking to invest in the technology to drive the customer experience whilst also managing the cost. Chandak, I think you're going to talk a little bit now about sort of what I guess the question is, are enterprises waiting? And I think this slide shows really well that people aren't waiting and they're diving into it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, David, it's a very interesting time for the technology space in CX, and enterprises are not just waiting on the sidelines. They are going all in. They are trying to identify various use cases. They are trying to conduct pilots. They are trying to implement at different levels. And you can see from this slide that only 14% of enterprises are not planning to leverage generative AI. And close to 70% of them are either conducting pilots or are implementing it at various levels. So the contact center space is set to get disrupted with generative AI challenging the traditional CX delivery model and enhancing the existing digital CXM solutions, like we discussed in the previous slide. And enterprises are increasingly focusing on this technology, and they're finding opportunities and seizing those opportunities which they can find to enable a more broader and more efficient customer service operation, which was not seen before in this industry.
Yeah, and so just one point before you move on is probably worth just calling out as a little trailer or teaser for the audience in terms of the research that we're doing. But we are also, right now, we're trying to look at where are actually people deploying generative AI solutions from a CX perspective? Where are they pilots, but where are they actually going into production? Because one of the pieces of feedback we've heard from our members and from the people we engage with, which is it's great talking about what could be done with it, but we also want to know what is being done with it. And that is definitely a big focus area. So I guess watch this space from our perspective in terms of we are building more and more research into that. So we'll be able to share actually where it is being used versus where it could be used, which I think makes it real from an enterprise audience perspective for you to understand, if you're looking at where we could deploy it, where are these solutions actually hitting the ground versus just being lots of good ideas that aren't necessarily being used in production. So just wanted to trial that as future research that we're doing.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that resource, David. And actually, we had done a lot of we have focused a lot on the enterprise side as well in the last 6 months or so, and we had run a survey in which we had surveyed around 200 enterprise respondents, which included CIOs, CXOs, CTOs, digital transformation heads, VPs of contact centers. And we try to understand how they are implementing generative AI solutions. Like, what is the approach that they're looking at? And the best part is the most of these respondents are looking at a hybrid and collaborative approach. They're looking to partner with service providers, seeking third-party support to reduce the time to market, gain a third-party expertise, best practices. And a lot of these enterprises understand that they do not have internal expertise to run the entire implementation end to end. And that's why like 76% of these enterprises are looking at a hybrid and collaborative approach. On the other side, a lot of enterprises, so you'll see 11% of them are outsourcing entirely to tech heritage providers. So it shows that enterprises have affinity towards those providers who have proven technology abilities, have done implementations in the past, and can give the confidence to the enterprise stakeholders that they can also turn around the implementation for this technology, which has not been tested before in this industry. So tech heritage providers are definitely at the forefront of a lot of enterprises who are inclining towards partially or completely outsourcing the implementation plan for generative AI. You'll see some enterprises are trying to develop internally as well. A couple of reasons. Some of them feel there would be challenges around data security, privacy, would not want to give the entire control to the providers, as well as they feel that their proprietary solution will give them competitive edge. And a lot of these enterprises are big enough, have their technical teams in place, and can and have the ability to run this process end to end, and thus they are trying to develop these solutions internally. But all in all, I think the broader message of this slide is most of the enterprises are looking either partially or fully collaboration with third-party providers, so that they can get that outside-in expertise, and then together work as a single team for this entire implementation process. And in this survey, we also asked these enterprises around what is the role that they are expecting their service provider to play. And we got a whole range of different responses in it, starting from aiding the in-house resources, in-house teams, to maybe generating the entire generative AI adoption roadmap. And these vary significantly across industries, where like industries like BFSI or retail, they are more leaning towards third-party providers for support, whereas others like technology, they are less. But all in all, the broader message is we see providers coming in, and enterprises expecting providers to coming in broader on two dimensions. One is technology for sure. So responses like creating bridges between their existing tools and technologies, setting up their infrastructure, setting up computational power systems to run the entire solution, maybe maintaining the solution. So and at the same time enabling the technical in-house teams, supporting the technical in-house teams. So technical side is definitely there, and which also ties back to the previous point around tech heritage providers who have this ability to bring in best-in-class technical talent to support their enterprises. But at the same time, technology also requires a lot of contextualization. So enterprises are expecting providers to help them on the business side as well. So redesigning the entire customer journey, redesigning the CXM processes that are in place, understanding loopholes which can be corrected, as well as understanding which processes can be made more efficient. And then training agents, helping agents to cope up with this new technology. moving aside from the work that they used to do normally, and doing work more and more with different tools and technologies, and all in all, challenging the traditional model, like I said, enabling an enterprise, helping an enterprise to get into a new age, a digital-led contact center operating model. So this is what most of the enterprises are expecting their providers to come in and help them drive the generative AI implementation roadmap. This brings us to the poll, and this is while we have spoken a lot about what generative AI can do and what is the possibilities and what enterprises are expecting, we would like you to share with us what do you think is the competitive advantage that driving generative AI adoption will give to your company. So there are a lot of options, but we have selected the top four. Do you think that your internal technical talent and leadership alignment will give you a competitive advantage, or external expertise brought in by third-party providers, or maybe collaboration, which we had discussed in one of those slides, that is one of the most important or most highly chosen approach by enterprises. So will collaboration give you that competitive advantage, or maybe you do not feel that generative AI will not give you any benefits, or will not give you any competitive advantage for your contact center? What do you think? Will running the poll, maybe we can run it for 30 seconds more?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, Chanda, if you're looking at the results as they're coming in, I think overwhelmingly there is definitely going to be a focus on collaboration between internal teams and third parties. So that I think that really is good, that it aligns to what we've seen in previous research, but also it feels to me like a sensible approach in terms of no one's going to have all of these skills internally, and leveraging people that may have done it before as a third party provider, leveraging their best-in-class skills and doing it in a cost-effective way feels a sensible approach. So I think if we end the poll there, we can see that 65% of people have said that it's collaboration, 26% have said that they've got the internal technical talent. Only 1% feels that they're not going to get any benefit from the Gen AI in the contact center, and 8% are going to look for external expertise brought in by the third-party provider. So definitely it feels like collaboration is the overwhelming approach, and I think that feels, from what we've seen in our research and based on my experience and being in the industry for 20 years, collaboration works really well from a CX perspective. You can't do it alone, and actually leveraging the service providers is a wise move.
Yeah, I think the alignment between internal talent and leadership is also a very good approach, and 26% of you have selected that, and it's coming second to the collaboration approach. I think it's not just about knowing the technology and just go full-fledgedly implementing it. It's or maybe partnering with a third-party provider. It's also about aligning the technical talent with the business, right? The technology should be able to derive the results that the business is expecting. So I think, yeah, that totally aligns with what we are also hearing from the market, and what our research is also showing. And with that note, we have an offer for senior executives and senior leaders. Like David mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, we are doing a lot more research on the background, and we would be happy to have a follow-on conversation and share our insights around what companies are doing, what is actually being done on the generative AI space, and not just talking about potential, but also what's there on the what's the ground reality. But at the same time, as some of you or maybe most of you might know, we also focus heavily on the CXM market, have a very structured and comprehensive research program around the global CXM trends and what are the things which are happening around shoring, locations, language, channels, processes. So we keep on publishing reports and research work throughout the year. So we'll be happy to have follow-on conversations either around generative AI or maybe the global CXM market trends, or maybe shoring and location trends. So if you're interested, do let us know, or you'll be getting a follow-up email from us. Do respond to that, and we'll be happy to schedule some time to discuss that.
Yeah, and the link's in the chat as well. So if you wanted to press on the link in the chat, then you can take advantage.
All right. So with that note, we'll move on, and I think so, David, as you'll be covering this section, I think the most important question over here is, although there is a lot of potential for generative AI, are enterprises truly ready to adopt that? Can they rely on their existing systems, processes, technology, capabilities, and whatnot to drive this around? What do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Chanda. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's interesting because so just to set the scene, so a lot of this research is based on a very extensive study we did recently. So this is based on real data, not just opinion. So we're very keen here at Everest Group that the stuff that we talk about is based on research and not just Chandak and I coming up with our own opinions, which we could easily do, but that would not necessarily add value to you. So we want to give you some real world examples. So when we think about in terms of where we see the successes are going to come from in terms of Gen AI, then one of the things that came out from it really, which is that enterprises are going to have to really develop robust capabilities across people, process, and technology. And I know that, again, sounds quite old school because we've spoken about people, process, technology forever. But actually, it's even, or it's as true as ever, really, when you start thinking about it in terms of when you start thinking about leveraging generative AI, you need the people with the right spectrum of skills. And that means whether it's in the contact center, in terms of being able to, when you've got humans in the loop or you've got humans who are talking to customers, have they got the right skills? Are they going to have the right skills for the future? And we touch on that a little bit later. Have you got the right processes in place? And things such as governance are going to be vital, but also the right processes where actually what's the right customer journeys and the processes that underpin that? And are they in the right flow? And are you leveraging the technology in the right place? Because actually having the interventions of things like chatbots, etc., is vital they're in the right place. It's not just put in the wrong place because it stems the flow or it can divert contacts, but is it in the right place to add value to that customer and the right journey? And then lastly, it's around having the technology prowess to operate Gen AI. So again, if you outsource it, it's still about having the right investment for the providers to be able to invest in this. One of the big questions that we get, and I know we had it in the webinar questions, was around the commercial models. And we're not going to get into that today because there is still a lot of debate about what commercial models we're going to see, but we are going to see more and more movement towards outcome-based models as we start thinking about how do we combine the skills that we need plus the technology we need, but then everyone has to get their fair share of the pie in terms of how you pay for these technologies and the skills you're going to need to run it. So I think we're saying that people, process, and technology aren't going to be going away anytime soon. They are still as important as ever, just with a slightly different emphasis on them. Because I touched on the skill sets that are going to be required, but when you start thinking about, as we start to eliminate some of the simpler queries, or even more of the simpler queries through generative AI, I think we really can start to really focus on where do humans add value to that contact, and starting to think about what contacts do I have with my customers that they value and we value, and therefore we invest in humans in this process, and the ones that we don't see value in, we try and eliminate or automate. Where you do need people, what we're expecting is actually you're going to need people who've got much higher levels of emotional intelligence and empathy, which we know is an area generative AI is not going to have without, well, it's never going to have it, but it can mimic some of it, but it's not going to have the same as a human. And so how you deal with vulnerable customers, for example, or people with issues, being able to just deal with contextualization, the emotional intelligence and empathy that the people that are going to be handling contacts in the future is going to need to be higher. They're going to have higher levels of problem solving skills because the problems that are left are actually going to be more complicated. So all of the skills that you can see there, whether it's domain and industry expertise, ability to work with digital tools, or managing multiple channels, all of these skills are going to be magnified. And we work with a lot of organizations starting to think about where are the right sources of these talent moving forward as well. So what talent are we going to need? What skill sets are they going to need? But then also, where are the sources of those talent pools? So that is a really important to start thinking about in terms of the talent that we're going to need moving forward. We then start sort of talking about, as you start thinking about implementing Gen AI solutions, what are you going to need? What are the things that you're going to have to factor in as part of your implementation? So we start to get a little bit more, trying to be a bit more prescriptive here and actually give some real world examples. But what we're seeing is that when we spoke to the enterprises, 25% of enterprises have a limited awareness of where or how to start their Gen AI journey. So people are going to have to start thinking about, okay, where are the right places to start this journey from a customer experience perspective? How do you move the needle? How do you use it in a way that you do it in a safe way, but it can positively impact your cost? It can positively impact the quality and the service that you provide without putting undue risk on your business. 40% of enterprises have identified cultural inertia as a major obstacle to Gen AI adoption. So how do you show the value? How do you demonstrate ROI? How do you get the right investments to be able to really start embracing generative AI to drive the customer experience? And for me, it's always about how do you showcase the benefits it can drive for customer experience? It's not about doing generative AI for the sake of doing generative AI because everybody else is, but it's actually using it as an opportunity. I've said that a couple of times, but I was asked today about that in terms of the opportunity. I'm not sure why the slides are flipping around. But yeah, if we could get back to the slide I was on, that would be great. So if we could think about in terms of the opportunities that this could bring, then actually that's going to be the best place to be. And then actually as you start thinking about where we can actually really try and drive the improvements, is around things such as regulatory compliance. So regulatory compliance is going to be vital in terms of that scenario when we talk to enterprises that are really concerned, especially I hear it a lot from European organizations. I sit in Europe around, well, what are the regulations going to be in Switzerland or in Germany? And how do we actually start making sure we're addressing regulatory compliance? And then lastly, it's around redundancy and failover measures. So 2/3 of enterprises feel that they do have adequate capability to address potential issues. That still means 1/3 don't. So it's actually starting to think about, okay, how do you start addressing some of these challenges that we know are going to be out there? And then also some of the stuff around technical readiness, starting to think about, have you got adequate computing power? 52% of organizations were saying that they've got adequate computing power. That again means nearly half don't. You've also then got the ability to scale. 56% believe that they have. And then 69% have cloud-based infrastructure capacity. So that's quite a healthy number, but it's still 30% that don't. The other area, I think, which we touched on slightly at the bottom there, is I was talking to a couple of industry experts recently, and one of the biggest challenges is going to be, from a generative AI implementation perspective, is the quality of data that people have. The quality of data out there is not necessarily in the best shape. And so if you don't have data in good shape, it's going to be almost impossible to leverage the benefits of generative AI. So having the data in good shape is an investment that we are seeing companies having to make now, because that's going to be the foundation and the springboard for actually being able to do a lot of work in the future with generative AI, is by having that level of data in good shape, in a controlled manner, with the right data governance that you can then build upon moving forward. And as we think about sort of, if you start thinking about the readiness to deploy Gen AI, what we're seeing is that, say, there are 5 distinct approaches to thinking about use cases, really. So organizations are thinking about mapping the customer journey to identify those critical touch points where Gen AI can improve the engagement. And I think the key word there is improve the engagement. I think that's the important piece, which is it's not about just putting it in as a deflection issue or a cost reduction issue, but it's about where does it actually improve the experience. 55% of enterprises are going to look at analyzing customer feedback. 55% are also going to look at use cases. So thinking about where are the best use cases for this as well. 51% are going to look to actually seek input from frontline staff. I think actually would have been better if that was a much higher number. I think that the people on the front line will tell you straight away where actually the problems are and what the frustrations of the customer is. People could also ask the customer, I think, might be also a valuable point to do as well, which is where does the customer see some value? And we'll get on to customers' attitude towards generative AI in a moment. But then also 29% of enterprises are going to benchmark their own Gen AI solution deployments with external parties and industry leaders. So there's a number of ways that people are doing it, but I think the important takeaways from this slide is to think about, it is about thinking about the journey. So what journey do you want to take the customer on? Where do you leverage that technology? What are customers telling you? What are the frontline people telling you? And then what are the right use cases in that scenario? Because investing for certain use cases it may be so prohibitive from a cost perspective that actually staffing it with the right skilled humans might be a better solution than investing heavily in a generative AI solution. It might be the other way around. You have to look at it on a use case by use case basis to identify the best area as well. So that's what we're seeing in terms of people starting to think about how we're going to deploy it. And then if you think about some of the areas where people are starting to invest and starting to explore, it's areas such as script generation for sales and marketing. It's supporting non-voice channels, so email and social media. It's chatbots and self-service, which we've known have been around for ages. But how are we looking to leverage generative AI to improve those solutions? It's around knowledge-based enrichment. I think that if you can improve the knowledge base, surface that knowledge to our agents a lot quicker in the right way, it's going to reduce AHT, it's going to improve FCR, it's going to improve customer satisfaction, it's going to enrich the agent's life as well. They're all really positive things to have. So that's definitely an area that we're seeing people really investing in and adopting. IVR and leveraging that with conversational AI to improve that whole experience. And then language translation being the last area where actually in Europe, where you've got multiple languages to serve, you're not always going to be able to do that with people who speak that language, potentially, especially in some of the digital channels. So how do you leverage language translation? And obviously we know that will come to voice at some time pretty soon. So that's the interesting areas where we're seeing people really focusing from an enterprise perspective in terms of how they can leverage generative AI. So now, Chadok, I think you're going to give us a view in terms of consumers. And what did we hear when we interviewed a large number of consumers in terms of how they're looking to leverage generative AI?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks, David. So in line with the enterprise survey, we did another survey in which we try to understand how consumers feel about generative AI, and are they willing to talk to an AI? Because a lot of times, even being a consumer myself, I would not want to talk to an AI and would directly want to talk to an agent to get my queries resolved quickly, right? But given the current boom of generative AI and people knowing about tools such as ChatGPT or Bard or DALL-E or Midjourney, a lot of us have heard about it, or to some extent have used it in some shape or form in our day-to-day life, right? Maybe planning our next holiday, or maybe trying to understand what is the recipe for a certain what is the recipe for your next dinner, or maybe what are the places that you need to visit around the city, right? So we sometimes, or most of us have heard about it, or have used it. So we have asked the same questions to like 600 consumers recently in Q4 2023, and 84% were like, yes, we have heard about these solutions, these tools which exist in the market, and almost 60% of them have used it at some point in time in last year. So it really shows that unlike some other technologies which had came into the market, had potential to impact the market, for example, a blockchain or a metaverse, which consumers were not very well versed with, or maybe required a lot of investment, change in the consumer behavior, etc., etc. This generative AI led solutions does not require a lot of change in consumer behavior. You can just log into the tool, type your questions out, and get your answers, provided you're typing it out in a certain manner, or maybe provided you're making it easy for the AI to understand. But right now, the state of the global situation is such that most of the consumers are willing to talk to an AI, know about these solutions, and can use, or have used and can use in the future interactions with their brands. But I think the next question is, it's not just about hearing about the solutions or using the solutions. Are they willing to keep on using these? And for using this, they'll have to share their personal data with AI, right? They have to interact with AI at more deeper level. So that was our next question, and we asked consumers around what is the level of their willingness of sharing personal data with the AI, with AI tools and technology. So are they willing to share if the AI in turns promises to better serve their needs? And again, we saw a very positive sentiment from the consumers. and that resonates more while interacting with their favorite brands or trusted brands. So you see close to 70% of the consumers were very positive to receive personalized or personalized customer support or quicker resolution from their favorite and trusted brands, and 57% of them were willing to receive more relevant ads, more attractive offers from their trusted brands. So it shows that consumers are not hesitating right now to talk to an AI, although talking to an agent directly through the voice channel is still the predominant channel for customer engagements. And our research shows that 70% of the interactions, or at least the revenues that service providers are able to generate from the market, is through voice. But these non-voice interactions through chat, through social media are increasing rapidly, and we see almost 3 times more growth in these channels, which are increasingly led by AI tools and technologies. And thus this slide totally validates that, and customers prefer their trusted brands. But this sentiment is also positive for all other brands, right? Whether it's trusted or a brand which they have not used often. They are more and more open to try out new things, talk to an AI, maybe if it helps them better serve their needs. But while they are open to talking to an AI, there would be certain apprehensions from the consumer side for sure, and there would be certain hurdles due to which they would not like to share their or would not like to share their data or maybe interact with the AI. And in one of those questions, we asked these consumers around what are the major concerns. Why do they feel are the factors, and what are the factors that they feel would stop them to while talking to an AI, or from talking to an AI, right? So some of the concerns that were highlighted from that survey were privacy and data security, identity theft, data misuse, unwanted communication from the brand, data retention by the brand, and maybe using it behind the curtains without the customers knowing, and the lack of transparency that how is that data is being used by that brand. So I think the theme around the top concerns by most of these consumers were around data. Consumers are not very comfortable sharing that data, and that is because they do not know how this data is being stored, how secure is that environment, and they do not want their data ending up in a third party website a few months down the line, right? So that's why it's becoming important for most of the enterprises that, hey, let's not just look at our internal data practices, and let's not just look at perfecting our internal processes and implementing generative AI, but it also is very important to be transparent with the end consumers and let them know that how we are handling the data and how the data will be used. For example, the data won't be used to call you again and again to sell our services or products. It will be used maybe to better serve you, maybe to better target or make more personalized experience for you whenever you're interacting with our brand. So I think the message comes out very clearly that while consumers are willing to share the data, while they know that there are certain benefits of sharing their data and they're open to it, but at the same time they need the assurances that their data will be used in a correct, ethical, and compliant manner, which will not harm their privacy as well as not degrade their experience in the future. And then talking about what are the industries in which we see different nuances. Obviously, the insights that we're presenting in the previous few slides were from an overall global level, but there is definitely some industry specific nuances, and we asked these consumers around what are the industry differences that they see while the same thing, while they are willing, if they are willing to share their personal data, how much willingness is there from different industry lenses. So BFSI stands at the top, and most of the responses that we got from these consumers were around maybe personalizing their financial advices, in recommending what are the areas or what are the investment areas that they need to look at, how they can save their money, what are the cost-effective insurance plans or discount offers that they can get through these BFSI institutions. So these are more around not based on what their personal situation is, but what they can do to better make their personal financial decisions or maybe personal financial strategies in the future. From a retail standpoint, it sits at the second. So we heard some examples around personalized marketing from retailers, product recommendation, what are the other products that they can consider while buying it. To some extent, e-commerce firms are doing it, but maybe taking it to the next level of personalization. Maybe virtual avatars, which they can use to try out different stuffs that they are buying. So again, similar to banking institutions, making customers understand what they are buying and how it can benefit them, and at the same time making their experience better and not unlike the traditional operations or traditional buying that used to happen in the yesteryears. The third one is technology, and I think technology firms can again, similar to retailer, offer more personalized recommendations for their products, maybe make their customer service more efficient in the real time, and more importantly, technology industry, which offers a lot of technical support, which requires a lot of on-ground support from on-ground teams, can be shifted to a virtual environment. Maybe customers can get their problems troubleshooted through generative AI more efficiently rather than going to a self-service bot or FAQ section and trying to find their answers on their own. And finally, telecom. We all use our networks heavily to navigate, as well as to find out what are the restaurants nearby, what is the nearest gas station to me, where is the shop located. So these are the areas in which consumers are willing to interact more and more with AI and get more personalized recommendation based on their likes and dislikes, and at the same time understand where they are expected to encounter poor network, poor connectivity, where they should head to get better connections, and so on and so forth. So all in all, I think the responses that we have received from all the consumers are, hey, not just do not use our data to feed your internal system, but also help us make more smarter decisions, help our experience to get better, and at the same time show us what is the art of possible in the future, right? So these were the industry specific nuances that we have observed from that survey. So this brings me to the end of this presentation, and I think we'll just summarize what we are seeing and what our convictions are regarding generative AI. And I think, David, both of us agree that this is a technology which has a long-term impact on this industry. It's not just here to stay for a shorter term. Once the challenges are navigated, once the use cases are identified, and once the value is proven in the industry, it will create a lot of additional value, and a lot of new use cases are expected to come in. And for enterprises, it's important to integrate their existing tools and solutions, important to understand what their current state is, where they are headed to, and how they can chart out that journey. And like you discussed around people, process, technology, strengthening all these levers will be very important. But at the same time, it's not just about enterprises taking that step. Consumers are also willing to take that step towards a more AI integrated operating model, right? Consumers are more willing to share the data, more willing to talk to an AI. Although voice will still remain as a major component of customer service, but the portion of non-voice and interactions happening through these bots and AI channels will keep on increasing year after year. So, David, we do have a few questions. So, shall we take?
Yeah. And Chandak, I think that I know people tend to drop off when we start going into Q&A because they think, oh, here we go, here's the boring part. Hopefully that will be the boring part, asking a question that people that they may not care about. So I do want to actually pose some questions that we can both take an answer, go at addressing, that actually I think are a little bit more controversial. And not scripted, so it'd be interesting to see whether we agree, even though we work closely together. But I would be interested to sort of have this debate about this. So the first question that came up, so we're taking this from we got over 30 questions, so thank you for everybody that submitted questions prior to the webinar, and we're trying to take a couple of those. I have also tried to answer a few Q&A ones live. We will follow up on all of them to make sure that we can address people's questions. But the first question that's caught my eye really was, would AI replace human agents in the near future? So, I mean, that's a massive question. Maybe I'll give my perspective, and then Chandak, you can give yours. I think they will. I think AI will in certain use cases, but not in every use case. So the prediction that call centers will be dead, I personally believe is wrong. Definitely in my lifetime. I think that there is always a need for humans to interact with humans in the right type of use cases, in the right scenarios, where they both add value or where it adds value to the interaction. But there will be instances where actually you don't need to speak to someone, but we've put someone in the way because that's the easiest way of doing it up until now. And potentially Gen AI will replace them. So my hope for the industry is that we leverage the technology to be able to then invest where really good quality humans with good training, good tools can actually offer me a really great service. And the times when I just need to do something, I can leverage technology to get that done. So I think in summary, my view would be, it will replace humans in some instances. It will drive more need for humans in other instances, I hope. And those humans will be highly invested in, well trained, and able to deliver a great service. But Chandak, I don't know if you agree or disagree.
No, I totally agree, David. And based on one of my recent interactions with the brand, I was trying to get into their online website and was trying to understand what is the expected bill for the next month for one of my utilities. And I could not get it from the website, and I had to talk to an agent for that. I think those are the simpler use cases which can be handled by AI, and those answers can be directly given by the AI bot. And those are the areas in which humans will get replaced eventually, right? Because those are plain and simple. But if I had to ask why is my bill higher, or why there is a differences in my bill from previous month to the next month, I think that would require a more deeper analysis, which will require a more AI and human combination in place. And those were the areas in which AI will augment the way humans analyze and humans think and humans research to find answers to a certain question. So yeah, totally agree with what you said. It will replace to some extent in some of the simpler use cases, but at the same time the demand will increase in more complex queries, more complex areas, which requires smart judgment from human.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, thanks, Chandak. I'm glad we're aligned on that. The other maybe controversial question, which is someone asked, are offshore or outsourced call centers dinosaurs due to these capabilities? Which actually we could ask the broader question, which our contact center is going to be dinosaurs due to these capabilities. And I guess my view would be only if the contact centers allow it. So what I mean by that is, if you're a traditional contact center who is just trying to continue to leverage as many people as you can in as many locations as you can, then maybe you will become a dinosaur, but you have a lot more control than the dinosaurs did by being able to realize that actually customers do want to be able to improve the customer experience whilst reducing the cost, leverage technology, the new generations coming through, the Gen Zs and the millennials, et cetera, want to interact in different ways. So I think that actually as a contact center, if I was leading a contact center business, I would actually feel I've got much more confidence in having shaped my own destiny by embracing this technology and making sure I understand how it fits my customer's needs, implementing it in the right way for my customer, and not just focusing on, well, I've always done it this way and I'm going to continue just to focus on putting people in the process, and that's what I'm going to use. So I don't think that contact centers will become dinosaurs if they choose not to. But if you choose to stay where you are, then maybe that's where the dinosaur analogy comes in. But Chandak, I don't know, again, if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's about changing with the need and changing with the situation. And at the same time, we hear a lot around flexibility, versatility, and catering to what an exact enterprise or what the consumer needs, right? So, like you said, David, it's about changing. If they do not change, then they would become obviously the dinosaurs of the current era. But as far as the trend shows, I think most of the contact centers are looking at technologies and are changing the way they are operating. right now. So that really shows that they're not going to be dinosaurs in the near term, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and sorry, one more again. Just I like to pick on the controversial ones. I think that they're a bit more interesting than some sort of that are purely just about the mechanics, which we will answer. But I think that people like to hear a little bit about the areas that they're thinking about but don't want to talk about. So one of the questions that came up, which I think is picked up from other research that we've done, where we've talked about enterprises will look to buy technology more from technology players. But the question was, so do we think that actually the AI dividend will diminish and form part of the black box of BPO tech, just as we saw with IVR? So yeah, I mean, I think it will. I mean, I think short term, it's a new technology people are wrestling with, and they're looking for a level of assurity from the providers that they work with that they understand this technology. But over time, I mean, it will become part of the CXM delivery process, and Gen AI will be an expected part of that technology stack that you have within your ecosystem. So I do think that over time, the reliance on specialists or those tech providers may abate a little bit as people see that actually this now becomes part of the way of delivering customer experience management services. But that's going to need some of the providers out there today to also be able to deliver those services. And I think that one of the things that we would be assessing if I was on the buyer side still would be, okay, you talk about these technology capabilities, where are you delivering them? So what's my perception of you? And then also what's the reality of what you're delivering against these promises? Because for those who don't know, and probably many of you have sort of had to put up with me speaking before, but I did spend a long time on the buyer side. And one of the things that we always looked at is you can all service providers can do great presentations and great slideware, but actually where's the delivery coming from? So I do think that the assessment criteria will be more about not only what you can say you can do, but demonstrating where. But to answer that specific question, yes, I do think it will become part of the CXM delivery process, if you like, that will become more of a commodity over time, but it's going to take a while as people build confidence in this technology. And again, Chandak, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, I totally agree with you, David. And I think on a very similar note, and there is another question by David over here, and that's related to technology, but it's a very interesting thing that do we think that smaller contact center providers who do not have that financial might they and cannot invest, maybe cannot be investing in these technology, has the future as a subcontractor that staff and manage butts and seats. I think it's a very interesting thing that we were also talking about, you would remember. But my observation is the contact center, the opportunity that contact center market provides it's huge. It's like a $350 billion market, including the in-house centers, and the outsource centers are like more than $100 billion in size right now. And I think this is an industry in which a lot of different value propositions can thrive and can grow, right? And it's not just about investing in technology. Obviously, it's one of the bigger strategies and one of the more prominent trends. But all other kind of value propositions can exist, and like David here rightly said, subcontractor is one of those. But I think the other one is about the partnership model too. And a lot of smaller providers are partnering with third-party technology vendors who can provide them the best-in-class suite, as well as support them in a co-implementation manner, support them together in their enterprise scenario, and can work together in that partnership. I think that's also a approach that a lot of smaller providers are taking. David, what do you think? What are your observations around it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've often talked about technology can democratize solutions. So actually, I think that actually smaller providers can still leverage a lot of this technology because actually they're not having to build their own LLMs. They can leverage them from partners, and we're seeing a lot of interest in terms of partnerships and building that ecosystem. So actually, it can democratize the CXM space. Those things having to have massive dollars to invest in building your own LLM. And then obviously there's the whole thing now about small LLMs and that area as well. But I think so I think in summary, I would say I don't think it necessarily is a negative for smaller providers. They
Yeah.
just need to think about how they build the right ecosystem to support them in that.
Yeah, yeah. And one last question, David, and it really, it's again controversial and maybe based on observations as well, because we have spoken a lot about enterprises and consumers. So based on our conversations with our enterprise clients, right? How confident do you think are they about generative AI, and what is actually the confidence level of them maybe exposing generative AI for end customer interactions? I think that's a very interesting, controversial as well as based on observations.
I mean, I think that my initial reaction would be there is definitely an appetite. I think there's so much hype around it across the enterprise, not just in CX. And we know from some of the CX leaders I speak to, the board are saying, what are we doing with generative AI? We should be using it in all these places. They've seen the press about dramatically reduce your cost of contact centers. So everyone's being under pressure. So I think enterprises are definitely confident to look at it and are starting to assess it. I think they are dipping their toes in the water a little way, to use a very British expression, in terms of we're seeing it much more in agent assist solutions, using it in a way which is sort of supporting an agent, not replacing an agent, not directly exposing it to a customer. I think if you're in Europe, some of that's also down to the lack of confidence on where we're going with regulations. So I would say there is confidence in enterprises that this is something worth investing in and spending time on, because we're seeing that, and the number of conversations we have is proving that out. Whether they're confident in exposing it to their customers right now, I think there are a few case studies that show that they are, but they're few and far between. There's much more about exposing it to their internal teams to help them, and that's a safer way of doing it. So I think there is confidence, but it's going to take a little bit more proof points and case studies to get everyone fully confident. And also because we don't know where the legal parameters are going, no one wants to be the first to be sued. There is going to need to be a little bit more legal clarity and data protection. I know a few of the questions we didn't get to in the chat were around data protection. We know that's a massive area of concern. People are really, that is the biggest number one concern when you talk to enterprises in terms of privacy, data management, data governance, how you protect the data. So I think it's going to take a little bit more confidence in terms of are these solutions as robust as we would hope, and also to see, does anyone actually fall foul of any legal challenges, which is also going to be a thing that some enterprises wait for.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that brings us to the end of this conversation. I think we answered some of those questions, and we'll get back offline for those which we have not answered. But if you have any other observation, anything that you want to discuss, feel free to reach David or me. We'll be happy to have a follow-up conversation offline. And like we said in this presentation, that we have an offer for senior executives. Feel free to reach out. We would be happy to discuss around generative AI or maybe broader CXM market trends in a follow-up call. And also keep an eye out on our research. We keep on publishing our latest and current perspectives about generative AI in our website, as well as the broader digital transformation trends. And we have been doing a lot of research on the broader CXM market as well. Right now we are launching our peak matrix for this year, in which we will be assessing close to 100 providers. And at the same time, we are also focusing on contact center as a service, conversational AI, and other digital tools and technologies. So we'll share this deck in a couple of business days, through which you can access these links and read our published content, but keep an eye out for the upcoming content for this year as well.
Yep. Thank you very much for everyone attending.
Thank you, everyone.